So aren't these little guys precious?
Amen.
They're precious, they're adorable, they're lovable. They're sheep just like us. And this Sunday is the Sunday of the Good Shepherd, Jesus. Now, I don't see our little friend Dax here, but I see that Stella is here. So before I continue, Stella, I have something for you. Jesus is the Good Shepherd. He promises to take care of the sheep. So I'm wondering if you would like to take one of these home. Will you promise to take care of it like Jesus takes care of us? Awesome. Which one? Thank you. We'll have to draw straws for the rest. I'm done for everyone. But they are precious. They are precious. So, this week I have to say I spent some time thinking about sheep. What would it be like to live as a sheep? What do they do? How do they spend their time? They graze. They drink. They sleep. They hang out with other sheep. That's what sheep do. They live in community and rely on the shepherd for their general well-being and their safety. So long as there's a good shepherd keeping watch, protecting us from the wolves in our lives, it's a pretty chill existence, if we'll let it be. This week I watched a movie called The Beautiful Game. It's about a group of homeless men who come together in a park to play soccer, or football as it's known everywhere else but here. They've been training together with the help of a retired professional scout. Now at the start of the film, seemingly by chance, they're joined by one more man, Vinny, who has been living out of his car for quite some time, though he is reluctant to admit it. He does not want to be one of them. He is unwilling for much of the movie to identify with the other men on the team who greatly admire his skill as a player. Now this team has been practicing together and is about to represent England in the Homeless World Cup in Rome, a real-life international contest that was first held in 2001. Now more than 70 countries participate. More than 1 million unhoused lives have been touched. These teammates have bonded. They know each other's stories, each other's wounds and weaknesses, and each other's strengths and brilliance. Except for Vinny, who is new to the group. Now earlier in his life, Vinny was a soccer prodigy, drafted while still a schoolboy to play for West Ham United in the Premier Football League in England. But before long, in his rookie year, Vinny was cut from the team. He was devastated and quickly spiraled downward. His entire identity and sense of self-worth was connected to football. He isolated himself from his family, unable to process his sense of shame and failure. He couldn't find any traction in his life. He was like the lost sheep who lost its sense of direction, who no longer knew his place in the world. I want to take a moment to consider the words of Jesus and to ponder what they might mean for us. He said, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." We're likely to go to the most literal reading of these words. After all, by submitting to death on a cross, Jesus indeed laid down his life for us. We're called to be like Jesus. It is not likely that we will be called to give up our lives for the sheep in that same way. But God often asks us to set aside our own wants and needs for the good of the whole. Not only for the good of those we find ourselves in community with, but also for the good of those we can only touch by moving out of our comfort zone. Through this stretching toward the other can come some of the most powerful growth and transformation. Our 12-step friends know this only too well. They become willing to stretch, to risk connecting with the other, because they've come to know that their recovery, their very survival depends on it. It says in the book Alcoholics Anonymous that we are people who ordinarily would not mix, and that is an understatement. What people in recovery come to know is this: by sharing our stories with each other, we move out of isolation and into identification. We share a common problem, powerlessness, and a common solution, a spiritual experience. It is in this deep self-revelation, in this willingness to be vulnerable, that the alcoholic or addict lays down his life for the other who is struggling. And we all have struggles in life. The more we let one another in, the healthier the flock becomes. When we're focused on the well-being of the other, we are far less likely to lose our way. In the story of the unhoused footballers, a story based on real events and real people, the men did just that. They were a team, and they took seriously their obligation to look out for and support their teammates. They also extended a tremendous amount of grace to one another whenever one or the other would make a mistake. Always, they were quick to forgive and quick to love. In the film, the coach of one of the opposing teams from South Africa was a Catholic nun. She took a liking to the loner, Vinny. It was when she encountered him wandering the streets of Rome by himself that she was able to facilitate a change in him. She invited him back into the fold by asking him to sub for one of her team members who had been injured. "We can't save ourselves, Vinny," she told him. "We can only save each other." My friends, this is how, at its best, church works for us. Gradually, in time, we get to know one another. We sense one another's weaknesses or vulnerabilities, and we witness one another's brilliance. By entering into community, we lay down our lives for one another, and we keep the gates open for those sheep who may not look like us, or whose life journeys may not mirror our own. But we are called just the same. Let us always remember, there is only one flock, only one shepherd, the one who loves us through and through. Amen.
Amen.